a specific piece of Canva today and really talking about creativity in the classroom, specifically how to turn some writing assignments into mini podcasts and do all of that directly in Canva. All of these could be adapted to also other project type ideas, video. We're going to talk, it's going to kind of dive into video editing. It's going to dive into recording and writing. So this can be transferred into other projects besides podcasts. But podcast is kind of the core that we are going to connect to and focus on today. So we will dive in, and again, definitely you will want to make sure that you're able to log into Canva. So make sure you can do that as well, and we will get started. I'm just getting over a cold. I'm so close to not coughing, but sorry if that happens a few times. So my name's Janice. I'm your Canva learning consultant. I do professional learning for JCPS as well as schools all over the world. I am excited to be here. I'm a former teacher and coach. I've been using Canva for more than 10 years with students. So this podcast is actually a project that is kind of near and dear to me. I was an English teacher for 15 years, so I did a lot of writing in my own classroom. And near the end of my time in the classroom, I spent some time really kind of turning some of these writing assignments into podcasts. So I've done this in my own classroom. I work with teachers every year doing this in classrooms. So I do really love this project. I think it lends itself well to all grade levels. I've done this in first and second grade. I've done this in 11th grade AP, bio, high-end science. So I've done this type of project kind of across the board. So I just love being able to share how easy this can be in Canva and help kind of discover ways that this could be applicable to your own classroom. Okay, so how familiar are you with Canva? So I'm actually going to launch this from Zoom. Normally we would do this in the chat, but there's so many of you. So let me just take one quick minute. It was really going to help me kind of know who's on our call. So I am going to launch this poll. It's going to pop right up on your Zoom window. Let's see if this will work. Okay. It's going to pop up. And if you don't see it, it's not the end of the world. Don't worry about it. But if you do see it and can give yourself a quick answer, it's going to let me know, just kind of gives me an idea of who's on our call and where we're kind of starting today. And that would be great. So it looks like, I don't know if you all are seeing it update in real time or just your own answer, but we have quite a few in kind of that somewhat familiar, a handful who are still pretty unfamiliar. It might feel like a lot of information today if you're brand new to Canva, but I will also tell you, I promise your students will figure this out really quick. So you don't have to be the expert. Being able to bring this into your classroom is pretty simple with students as well. And so we're kind of across the board, mostly in that somewhat familiar and familiar and a little bit on either side. Amazing. Okay, if you didn't see it or it didn't pop up or you're on a mobile device, that's totally fine. We got the majority of you, so it helps me just kind of get a really good idea. Okay. Oh, yes. So sorry. I know it's kind of funky on a phone. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and end that. Again, if you didn't answer, not a big deal. I got a pretty good idea of wrap. Okay. So we're going to dive in, still a handful unfamiliar, just going to briefly remind Canva is an all-in-one visual communications platform. So anything you want to create or communicate visually, you can do it in Canva. One reason we love Canva is we really do believe the skills that students learn go beyond the K-12 space. So these skills that students are learning, especially when we're talking things like podcasting, we're connecting them to real world application, real life pieces, different things like that. You are able to really create and customize things that students can then take beyond the classroom. It also fosters those 21st century learning skills like creativity, communication, teamwork, collaboration, all of those types of things. So let's dive into creating a podcast. So just a couple things, and I'm going to share a bunch of resources at the end. A lot of what you're going to see comes from a resource that we have. So I will share my slides and the resource with Kathleen, but the resource is built in. We have a whole bunch of great stuff, and I didn't even put half of it in here. So there's lots of great pieces for you afterwards. But as we think about podcasting in the classroom, it really is a great method for teaching. So just some fun facts. There was a study done with over to 1,000 parents in the US. And of those 1,000 parents, the responses showed that 48% of US children between the ages of 3 and 12 listen or watch a podcast weekly. So vlogging, video podcasting, that's all part of this as well. But we know students are listening to those podcasts. And there are more and more podcasts coming out for students and for children. Education stories and comedy are some of the genres that garnered the most interest. And then 7 in 10 parents say that their children take the initiative to begin listening to podcasts. So again, being able to create that podcast in the classroom is bringing it into that real world application, connecting it to making it more engaging to them beyond just writing the piece of writing that they're going to do, whatever that might look like. It also makes it a little more collaborative. Students are able to work together to create them, or they're able to work together to create them and also listen to each other's, hear each other's, work together in that way. All right, just some types of podcasts that you can do in your classroom. Oh, I missed one. We have things like interviewing. So this I've done in a number of different classrooms, whether it is interviewing book characters, interviewing historical figures, interviewing each other, and then giving facts and information that way. Lots of ways to kind of build through the interview process. Bite size. So those mini micro lessons and micro learning podcasts don't have to be super lengthy. You can do one in 3 to 5 minutes with just a quick topic. So it doesn't have to be 30 minutes that you have to listen to for each student. Like you can really do these on a small scale. It could be digital, some more of the storytelling and kind of a narrative piece here. We had students work on their writing skills and they created these, they had an option. They had like a true crime or a kind of science fiction storytelling where they were working on elements of writing and they were able to turn those into podcast script and be able to record those. So kind of fun. It could be individual solo podcasting where they're speaking from something from themselves. Conversational, slightly different than interview, where you have multiple people who are just kind of using that back and forth as a conversational tone. And then also comedy and comedic as well. So just some different ideas as you think about your subject. I would love to do a little more brainstorming, but we have so many of us. I don't want to kind of totally bombard the chat. But with podcasting in the classroom, I really truly believe that you could do this in on all grade levels and in all subject areas. So students could do something like create an educational tutorial about something, interview an expert. So they could take this out. Actually, my local school district recently started a little podcast, and they have students go interview teachers and district office employees and different transportation people, and they're talking about facts and they're putting that out to the community. So it doesn't always have to be classroom based either. It could be school wide or something even larger. Book reviews is how I see a lot of people get started in podcasting, especially in the younger grades. That's a really great place where they can do those little book reviews, debates, and taking that argumentative writing, an argumentative essay, an argumentative piece of writing, and turning that into a script and almost into that debate style. So that's a great option. Student showcases, showcasing their learning or research on a topic, kind of going into that genius hour style as well. Language learning, really great for practicing fluency or practicing language if you have multi-language learners, or foreign language and world languages. If you're learning that world language, being able to practice by speaking, this is a great way to get kids engaged in speaking the language. Historical narratives, it's kind of the same idea of an interview. You can interview historical figures. You could put yourself in that time period and be like reporting from that time period, almost like newscasting in a way. Lots of ways to think through it that way. Science experiments. So that's actually, I taught a podcasting unit to an AP 11th grade, I don't even know, upper level science class. And they were taking really complex information and breaking it down to be more digestible. And they were doing that in a way that was more conversational. So that's where they were using some of that science piece in there. Current events is a great one for those history and civics classrooms. You could also do this for your classroom. I see this done quite a bit, a little bit more in the elementary, but having a little weekly podcast for your classroom that kind of goes out with or in lieu of your weekly newsletter. And students can report on classroom updates. You could have a portion in there. You could rotate through. That's kind of a fun idea as well. Just a few more. Oh, current events is on there. Apparently these are on there twice. Guest speakers, again, kind of going back to that same idea. Creative writing, again, storytelling, career guidance. This could be great for your upper level students who are looking for career information, audio journals, wellness and fitness, being able to track your fitness journey through like a physical education or a health class. Lots of ways to do that and then do it verbally through podcasts. Really, the possibilities are endless. These are just some ideas. But again, you could also take these similar ideas and go into blogging, video blogging, kind of across the board. So we kind of broke down the steps to creating a podcast, and we're actually going to walk through these together today. So you're going to do this alongside me and what it would look like in the classroom. We're going to kind of limit some of the first part, but we're going to get an opportunity to try this. So the first part would be really to brainstorm and then to write your podcast. Find a podcast template in Canva and begin the creation side, record and edit, and then publish that podcast. So as we think about brainstorming, this is always a good place to start. I think podcasting can come twofold. You could start by saying, hey, we're going to create a podcast. You can give them parameters, give them topics, give them the style, whatever that might be, and all of those pieces. And then you could also allow them to kind of brainstorm and mind map, whether that's independently, in small groups, in a whole group, and all the topics they could cover in a podcast. You could do it that way. You could also take a piece of writing that they've done. So I was an English teacher. I know there's a time and place for that whole essay or writing those CERs or whatever that might, book reviews, things like that. They can take that writing they've already done and spin that into a podcast. So I think you can go both ways with it. But starting with that brainstorm piece, I've linked some templates here you can use in Canva. We won't dive into as much of the brainstorming today. More of the creation side, but you can grab templates from Canva and also use those in the brainstorming process. And then scripting. So this kind of goes back from that brainstorming. You can also making sure they write a script so they're not just running off of their brain. Even if it's loose and they're ad-libbing a little, that's great. But having some type of outline and script and talking points and things like that is really helpful for students. Sometimes they think they can just hop on there and talk, which they can, but also kind of keeping it a little bit more streamlined. So we have a lot of great templates for those, which I've linked here as well. But again, they could take that piece of writing and turn that into a podcast script, or they can brainstorm and start from scratch. And then this is where we're going to kind of dive in today. So I want you to be thinking for just a minute as we talk about ways you could maybe use this in your classroom. What's a project that students could do, a topic you could do in your classroom? How would this fit into what you're doing? And then we're going to work on the creating side together, and we're going to walk through this portion today. I just want to highlight that I have this slide in here about creating, about recording, which we're going to do live, and then also sharing. So I'm going to do these in real time with you, but I do have slides for you and some resources, which we'll come back to at the end. And these I'll also share with Kathleen. So together, as we log into Canva, we are going to dive into the creating side of things. So, and if you want to, I would actually love, I know there's 130 of us on here, which is fantastic. But if you wanted to, if you're thinking in your head, like, oh, I could really use this. If you want to drop it in the chat, either the topic you could do, what you could do for a podcast in your own classroom, maybe the topic or the type or whatever. If you want to tell us what you teach in a topic, I would love to see kind of some ideas that are popping in your head. Maybe that'll help other people as well. I know there's a lot of us, but if you were to drop something in the chat, I would love to see kind of what ideas this sparks for you, or maybe you've done this in your classroom already, what you've done. And then we have, debates, US history, love that. Ooh, in math, I would love to see like how you would use this in a math classroom if you have an idea. Backpack defenses, that's a great one. Updates for the team, for parents, love that. So that going back to that kind of classrooms idea as well. Yeah, if you have ideas for how you would use these. Curious anyone said, I've actually done this with second graders. I did it with book talks. They're very cute because they'll have like their script in their hand and they'll read it and they're so sweet about it. But book talks is a really great way to start in the younger grades. Or if they've done research on a topic, you could do almost like interview style with that one. That's a fun one too. Reading progress by decoding. I love that. Reading a passage. Backpack defense, climate change. That's a great one. Weather. Ooh, breaking down weather. That's a fun one. I like that one too. Just learning what they're learning each week, like summarizing. That's fantastic. Farmers. Oh, interesting. That real interview an expert. Love this. Love this. Science experience, key topics, advice for incoming students. That's a great one too. I like that one too. Yours are awesome. Okay, let's dive into the creation side. So we have, when you log into Canva, it will look something like this. We had a lot of people who are fairly new to Canva, so I want to just walk through a couple things really, really quickly. When you log into Canva, it will look something like this. in the upper right-hand corner, it's important if you are using your school district account that you see the name of your school in the upper right-hand corner. It's also important when students log into Canva that they see their school in the upper right-hand corner. So as you're working with students in Canva, that will be one thing that's important, is that they see their school name appear in the upper right-hand corner. So that's number one. You'll see recent designs here, and then you'll also see a row of icons here for kind of our larger buckets. A couple things I want to point out. Canva does have documents. Documents are more text-based. So think like a Google Doc or a Word doc. That's the same as a Canva document. So not sort of little less in the design piece, but more in the text space. This is great for a planning document. Students can collaborate and write their script right in Canva. So I always want to point out that they can do all of the pieces in Canva. They can brainstorm, they can create a document and write out their script. We have templates for those scripting pieces, things like that. So we do have documents. Whiteboards we're going to come back to, but these are a great way to share in the end. And do kind of like a gallery or something. And then we have also all of our quick buttons here. The other key piece that I always highlight, because students often get confused with this as well, is you see some recent designs here, but these are definitely out of order. This is not everything I've been recently working on. So over here on the left, you have a little projects tab. This projects tab with a folder icon is important. That is like your Canva drive. So everything you do in Canva is automatically saving, and it's saving right here to projects. So this projects tab is where all of your stuff will automatically save. You could have students create a folder for their podcast that could include like if they're using images, if they're doing a script, and then their podcast itself, you can create folders. They could share those with a small group if they're working in small groups, things like that as well to keep themselves organized. But everything you do in Canva will automatically save, and it will save to projects. So that's a really great opportunity as well to kind of remind them how to organize and find their pieces in Canva. And then you have templates on the left. This is our template library. It's going to kind of base off of, it looks a little different. Mine might look different than yours. It's slowly changing because Canva loves to change things up. I was just doing some whiteboarding, so mine has a lot of whiteboards. So again, those brainstorming whiteboards to kind of get you started, lots of great templates for those. But at the very top is also a search bar, and this is where you can search for templates. So this is where I would search for podcast cover. So if you are logged into Canva, if you want to click on that search bar on the top, and you can put in podcast cover or podcast, or podcast thumbnail might work too. I usually use podcast cover, but you could try some variations. You could even try, I don't know, I've not tried this, so don't, if it doesn't work, I don't know. But you could even try like science podcast or something like that and dive in and see if you find things that are even more specific. But when you search for podcast cover, it's going to give us all kinds of options. So you could, again, maybe type in reading podcast, book review podcast, and you don't even have to start in a podcast cover. You could have students start in a book cover. You could have students start in a presentation. If that's easier, fantastic. It doesn't always have to be a podcast cover. I like to start here. But really, you have so many ways you could start this. And everything we do could shift into lots of different into those podcast things that we're going to talk about. So if you don't want to do podcast cover and you want to find a slide, a book cover, something else, please feel free to do that. And I'll show you how to shift it into the recording part when we get there. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. Again, podcast cover is a great search term, but you can kind of explore. You can scroll through. If you find one that you like, you are going to click on it, and you're going to choose customize, and then it will make you a copy of that podcast cover into your own Canva projects. I have the hiccups. So I'm going to give you just a quick couple of minutes to kind of scroll around. And again, it doesn't have to be a podcast cover, but if you want to start there and follow along, fantastic. You could do this in a variety of things. But let's just take maybe a quick 3 minutes, explore around. The goal would be to have something open. So find a podcast cover, a book cover, a slide, something, so that we can then work through the tools on how to create the podcast itself. So again, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to kind of explore through the template library, try to find one that you want to click on and choose customize, and then we'll work on editing and recording and all of those tools. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna give us three. Actually, I'm gonna make sure my sound is shared because I don't think it. There we go. I'm gonna give us 3 quick minutes to explore, have something open, and then we'll dive into the actual creation. If you have questions, put them in the chat. Okay. So again, the goal is to have something open. So if you tried podcast cover or something else, and sorry, and you found one that you like, you can click on it and choose customize. If you're really not sure, one thing you'll notice is if you search podcast cover, there is an option to start with a blank one. So you could always just start on a blank page and play around. It will work totally fine. So if you want to do it that way, you can grab a blank one or a blank slide, anything like that. So I picked this one. I actually, for some reason, I really like the ones that have the buttons that look like a player. These are always my favorite. I don't know. I just like these ones. So I'm going to use this one. So one thing I really want to highlight, and one of the biggest kind of steps in this that's going to really help your students, it's kind of the key piece here, is a lot of these podcast cover thumbnails, or if you did this in a book cover or a presentation slide, which works fantastic, especially for your littles. A lot of times those are graphics, so they're images, right? They're set more like a slide or a page, I guess would probably be the best way to describe it. What's really going to help our students is if these were videos. So you could always start in a blank video template as well instead of a slideshow or any type of video template. But what I love to do with my students is if they find a podcast cover they like, what you can do is you can go up to the resize. So if you are not already in a video template, we're going to click on resize up here at the top. We're going to go down to the video section and we're going to click on videos. And then you're going to see lots of options. These are just the size of your design. So video landscape would be like the size of a slide. So if you're doing this in a slideshow, you would choose video landscape. Mobile video is going to be vertical. So think like your phone. So it's going to be kind of that up and down. Facebook video is actually square. You can see it's 1080 by 1080. So this is a square one. There's other ones. Video collage is also square. You can see these numbers match. So is LinkedIn video ad. These are all squares. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick Facebook video for now. You could also type this in, but I'm going to choose Facebook video. Again, because mine is square, I'm going to use a square. So I went to resize, chose video. It would be up here. If you are on a mobile or if you're on an app, it's going to be in a different spot. And I'm not exactly, it might be up under your little lines, or it might have a little icon if you're not on a desktop, but it should be up here in the top. One thing is you want to make sure with your template that you're not in this window, that you've chosen customize, and you're in the design editor as well. So make sure you see the full editor. If you don't, if it looks like this, make sure you close out this side over here, or you're in the full editor as well. So under resize, I'm going to go ahead and click video. I'm going to choose Facebook because mine is square and so is a Facebook video. If you chose a slide, I would probably choose this one. If you chose a book cover or something that's more vertical, I would probably choose like TikTok video. Mobile video is probably fine. Anything that's kind of vertical as well. Any of those would work. So I'm going to go ahead and just click this one. You'll notice I have the option to copy and resize or just resize. I'm just going to pick resize and resize each of these. Oops. So sorry. So I'm just going to resize my design. And it's going to ask me again. I'm going to choose resize. It's going to think about it and it's going to resize. You'll know it resized to a video because you'll have a little play button here and it'll look a little different along the bottom. I say this because it's going to allow us to add audio tracks a little bit easier. It's going to be a little easier to edit. You don't have to. You could do a lot of this without using the resize. I just think it becomes easier in the end. Totally up to you. Great. So it needs to be resized again because it allows us to work a little bit easier with the audio files that we're going to add. If you just wanted to do something really simple where they're just recording themselves, you know, talking about a book, you may not need to resize it. I'm giving you kind of the bigger picture. If they're really going to dive into adding like some intro music and things like that, it's going to be a little easier to edit this way. Yeah. But you don't have to. You could totally do it a different way as well. It would totally be up to you. My best number one tip that I could share for you is, and actually let me open this one again one more time so you can see it not resized. So I'll kind of give you both views. The number one tip that I would share for anybody doing this with your students is when you record yourself in Canva, you have the ability to record as long as you want. However, actually, I'm going to pause. I'm so sorry. I'm going to backtrack. We're going to start here with resizing and just editing this actually, and then we'll share a little bit of my other tip. Getting ahead of myself a little bit. So if I didn't resize, I can actually click the little button over here. You'll see I see the pages at the bottom. You could absolutely edit this way. Again, a video file is just going to be a little bit easier when you're adding more audio. So totally up to you. But I like to at least highlight how to do that. So now that you have your podcast cover, we're going to go in and we're going to make some edits. So if you're fairly new to Canva, which a lot of us were, I want to talk just quickly about some editing in Canva. So when you click on something in your Canva design, this top toolbar is what I like to call like an adaptive toolbar. So it's going to give you all of the tools that you need. So right now I clicked on the background. It shows me the background color, which means I could change that. So I'm going to go ahead and change the background color. Maybe you have an image as your background and it won't let you change the background color. That's okay. You could always replace the image or change a graphic. I can always add and take away. So maybe I don't like this graphic here. I can click on this little graphic of these two guys talking and I can delete it. I can just use the trash can in my small toolbar to delete anything I don't want. So the nice thing is everything in Canva is fully customizable. So I can easily edit colors, take things out. I can add things in. I can make it exactly what I want it to look like. So again, if I click on this graphic, this kind of audio wave, again, I get my color block at the top. So I'm going to change the color again. Maybe we'll make it a little bit, maybe we'll make it yellow. It's a little bit transparent. So there is a transparency. Really, it's kind of clicking around with some of these buttons that students will figure out pretty quick on how to kind of create it and make it look how they want. On the left, under elements, elements is where you can add more things to your design. So if you want to add, if students want to add graphics like pictures, or if they want to add photos or videos, video maybe not as much, but you could easily add a photo or a graphic here, and you could add those pieces in right from the elements tab. So that's where you might see a lot of the templates will have pictures of a microphone. So I can look up graphics and grab a microphone if I want kind of that podcast looking microphone. Oh, I like the neon one. This one's fun. I can add this one to my design. I could also add a photograph. If those who have backgrounds, who have photographs in your background, you could swap those out with another photograph. So I could click on a photograph and add it. If I add a photo, in my small floating toolbar under the 3 dots, I can scroll down and I can replace it as the background. So if I want like a photo in the background, I could do that. So I'll do that one again. Let me pick a different one. Maybe I like this one. Again, that small floating toolbar under the 3-dot menu, and then replace background, and it will add it to the background. So you could really kind of be creative. Students can have some fun with this. They can also bring in their own pictures and video if they want to, and add a picture of themselves. Maybe you're doing it about a historical time period and you want that to be part of this. You could search for a photo of, I don't know, maybe we're doing it on outer space. Again, Canva has a full photo library and all of these graphics that they could easily add and really customize to make it fit the topic, the theme. Maybe we're doing it again on outer space. Maybe I could take this one and replace my background and have kind of more of an outer space theme. You could really have some fun with this. There's even animated graphics. So a really good one is like sound waves. When I choose sound waves under graphics, there's lots of fun animated ones that they could add to add a little bit of animation to it. Students often think these are pretty fun. So there's lots of great options when it comes to adding and creating and having a little bit of fun with what you want this to look like. Let me say sound wave. I'm missing some that I like. And he doesn't want to show me them. Yeah. So lots of fun ways to kind of add different pieces. So I'm going to give you a quick 2 minutes if you want to add a few graphics, maybe change the background or change a few colors around. Same thing with any text. If you want to add text, there is a text option. I can double click on any text box and change the text. I can change the font and the font color at the top. This one has a text effect on it, so I can change the outline. That's not really cute, but that's okay. That'll work. So you can kind of click around. Again, this top toolbar is going to show you every tool that you need to be able to kind of quickly change things, whatever you want it to look like. Yeah, graphics are great. There's 100 million elements in Canva. So whatever you want to find, you will find it in here. So if I'm doing something, we'll keep this outer space theme for fun. I could choose rocket. It's going to give me, again, animated graphics, non-animated graphics. I could have a lot of fun with what I wanted to add to my design. So let's take a quick 2 minutes and just add a few graphics, add a few elements, see what you find, maybe a photo in there, and then we'll keep going. Sorry, I was testing out my thing to make sure it wasn't going to freeze on me in this next part. Okay, perfect. So you have the ability to, again, add all kinds of elements, add your text, all those things. The next part is the part that is another incredible tip that I want to be really clear because this is going to help your students so much. Number one, make sure that their podcast cover is ready to go before you do this part. So have them get all the graphics in, have them get the whole design done, do whatever they're going to do. And then one piece that's going to really help them out, especially as we start recording, is at the bottom where your page is. If you click on the little 3-dot menu in the upper right corner, or you right click on the slide, whether it's in the video or in just the regular pages, you can do the same thing. You want to duplicate the page. So I I have my students typically duplicate the page like 3 or 4 times. The reason being, with Canva's recording studio, you can record over multiple pages and it breaks the video apart for you. And I've learned with I taught middle school most of my career, so I did this a lot with middle school, but also elementary. Recording in smaller chunks helps because if they mess up somewhere and they're already 5 minutes in, they don't have to stop, restart, edit, all of that. I have them take their script and I have them break it down into smaller sections. So at most, they're recording maybe 30 seconds to a minute at most, which sounds really short, but let me tell you, it's not, especially if you're only doing a 3-minute podcast, which is still a long time. So I usually have my students get their podcast cover all set, duplicate that page so they have multiple pages so they can record in those smaller chunks. And that way, if they mess up, they just have to re-record the smaller part that they messed up on. So I hope that kind of makes sense. This is one of the best tips I can give you, is really break it down into those smaller pieces. So that's a huge part, like a huge piece there. So to do that, again, in the bottom of your design, you can right click or hit the 3 dots and choose duplicate, and it will make copies. Again, the key part being make sure that their design is pretty set, so that way they're all the same. So same thing, and if you didn't resize, you could do this here as well. You could duplicate and then duplicate again, and it would show you multiple pages. So that's a quick tip from me for that. So for the recording part, so as we talk about recording ourselves, under the uploads button, under uploads, you have this option here to record yourself. I'm going to do it. Oh, but I'm on Zoom. Okay, you have to turn your Zoom camera off to do it if you want your face. You don't actually have to. So a lot of times when I record with podcasting, I have the students turn their video off anyways. But let me do it. Yeah, no, it won't because I'm on Zoom. Okay, yep, let me do it again. And let me get out of here. Let me turn this camera off. Let me pull this a little bit. Okay, under uploads, it's kind of buried. So under uploads over here on the left, under uploads, you are going to choose this record yourself button. Let's see if this will do it. Mine is being a little finicky today. Let me have to do a quick refresh because I already went in it once and it's been it doesn't always love it when I'm on Zoom. So we're going to try one more time. Under uploads, record yourself. There we go. Oh, let me pop it up this way. Actually, you can ignore, I'm like moving stuff. So sorry for the messy house behind me. So I like my Zoom background. So when I hit record, obviously it's going to pop us into the recording studio. Obviously I have my camera here. So in this upper corner, you can have, if you're recording yourself, you can actually turn that camera off. Again, that's what I did a minute ago. So it will leave an icon here, but I'm going to show you how to get rid of that or hide that later. So you have students, if you want their faces on it, you could have them leave their faces on. For younger learners, it's probably easiest. They have their little script, totally up to you. Again, you could always hide it later. A lot of times I will just have them turn their camera off and just record their voice. When you hit record, it's going to count you down. And then right now I'm just recording over this page. So this is where you break them into small chunks of the script. They can record back and forth. You can also have multiple students recording at the same time. So if you're collaborating, there's some ways to break that down. I could pause, or I could stop this one, or I could just move on to the next one and start the second chunk if I'm ready to go. Kind of up to you. Again, they can pause and move. They can just move using the arrows. They can choose done here. If they're done and want to just do one page at a time, but whenever they're done, they just choose done. And if they want to start over, they can hit done and then just delete it and start over as well if they messed up. But then they hit save. And right now I'm just recording. And the best part is it drops it right on the page. So this first page, it dropped it right here. The second page, it dropped the second one right on there. So it knows where you change pages and it will break it apart for them, which is great. Or again, if they, there we go. If they want to just stop and start on each page, totally fine as well. When you upload and record yourself in Canva, it does save to the Uploads tab as well. So it saves under videos as those smaller chunks. So if they accidentally delete it, if they want to use it somewhere else, they have it saved as well. So again, upload and record yourself. They can just record themselves. This video is here. You can leave it in its little space right here. You can move it around. So I could put it up here if I wanted to. I could also hide it. So there's a trick, there's a couple different tricks to hiding the icon if they just want the voice. Right now, you can't, unfortunately, like just record the voice itself. But if I wanted to kind of trick it, I could put this wherever I want it. And then in my top toolbar, if I take this transparency, the little checkerboard, and I take it all the way down to 0, the play button is still here. Sometimes students want it to be in front of everything. Sometimes they put it in the corner, but there is, and it'll autoplay typically as well. So usually you don't have to worry about it, but there is still a play button. And start the second chunk. If I'm audio will still come through, but you're hiding the icon. So again, I just took the transparency all the way down. So that's one way to kind of hack it. The other way to kind of hack it a little bit is to take the video. So when I click on this one, in the top under audio tools, I can extract the audio and I can take the audio away from the video and then delete the video itself. So if I do that on this one, I choose extract audio. Now the audio becomes its own little audio file down here at the bottom. This one maybe is a little more advanced for students. So if this is a little bit harder, you can always use the transparency. But now I have an audio track with my voice. And then I can just delete the video part because I don't need it. Can delete the whole thing, delete the frame. And now the audio, I'm going to stretch this one to fit it. And now the audio is here with that. So you can have that audio here and you can extract it so that it's underneath and then you can adjust it. So that's kind of nice too. It gives you more dust. So you can use the transparency trick, which is this one, or you can use that extract audio. So 2 ways to do it, totally up to you. And then the under elements, the last thing I kind of want to highlight as well is under elements. You can scroll down and there is an entire audio library. So another fun thing I have students do sometimes is they will have, let me duplicate this one again. They can have their little podcast cover, move this one over, and have just the podcast cover showing maybe without any talking. They can add intro music, they can add sound effects. They have lots of options under elements to add audio. So you could search something like intro music or a theme. Maybe you want like true crime. I don't know. That's probably a terrible search. I don't know that I would tell them to search crime, but maybe something else like spooky or suspenseful or something like that. Probably a little bit better to be able to find kind of those intro musics. And then you can also search for things like sound effects. So you can just search sound effect and you're going to get lots of them. Maybe you want something specific like bells or chimes or bullseye or some cheering, clapping, something like that. You can use those specific search terms. Suspense sound effect. You can preview those by clicking the little play button here. I don't know if you can hear that, but you can totally upload your own music. Under that uploads button where we were just recording, you can bring in your own audio as well. Absolutely. So we could have that one. When you add any of these audio sound effects, you'll notice if I have talking, it's going to layer it. So I can layer sound effects over and under, which is why working in a video template makes this slightly easier to do. Or I can also drag from each end and cut it down and trim it. Also, I have, again, this toolbar is adaptive, so I can fade in and fade out. I can adjust the volume if I want music playing underneath my talking, but I don't want it as loud. I can change the volume of each part of it. I can adjust which part is being played in here. Lots of options. So you have this whole audio library. The drag and drop part of the video editor makes this a little easier to kind of edit quickly. You can split sound. You can split clips and split sound. So you would take your little playhead, and then if you click on the 3 dots on sound, you can split the audio here. Yep, you can also split the video, things like that. Yep, you absolutely can. And again, adjust, fade, all kinds of things. So I shrink this one. Oops, that one did not want an extra one in there. Let me take this one down just a little bit more, move this guy over. So I could have a little, let's see how well this plays. And right now I'm just recording over this page. So this is right into my voice. So you can always check in preview by choosing the play button up here or these double arrows. So that's kind of fun. But again, I could layer it over the top if I want this one to go a little longer, and it will show where it's going to overlap and fade out into your voice, all those types of options. So you can add as many as you want. You can have multiple sound effects and underlying music. So it gives them some fun to be able to add the intro, outro, a sound effect in there, something like that. And that's the positives of duplicating the page, is you can have just a standalone page with a sound effect. They could piece it together a little bit easier that way. Or they can just record it in one shot. You have one frame, one shot, and do it that way. The possibilities are endless, but I'm just trying to give you kind of all of those pieces there. So kind of quick and easy. So again, everything's under elements as far as graphics, photos, videos, sound, all of those things. Uploads is also the other key piece where you could bring in an image of yourself. You can record yourself. Students could record themselves somewhere else if it's easier or quieter. They can record on their own phone, something like that, and then upload it into Canva. You could do that as well. They can bring in just an audio file if they just record audio or they want their own music that they've created. You can do that as well. Okay, I'm going to pause. We have about 8 minutes. I want to talk about sharing these and how you get these to different places. But if there's any last questions around the creation part of it, please drop those in the chat so we can make sure if you need to see something again that we cover those. But we will wrap up with how we get these, how you would share these, or students could turn them in or share them with each other. And then I'll end with just a couple of resources for you as well. But drop those questions in the chat. When it comes to sharing, so there's a couple ways you can share these. Students can click on share. The easiest way for students to share these is to click the share button. Under the collaboration link here, they're going to drop this down and they're going to switch it. They only have these 2 options. They don't have this third one. So they would just switch it to the other option that they have, which should be the name of their school. This does not mean that everybody in their school can see it. It's not discoverable. It just means if people have the link, they can listen to it. I would probably recommend changing it so it's can view. So again, you just switch it to the school team and then turn it to a view only. Copy that link. They can put that into Google Classroom. They could share that in something like a discussion board, a Padlet, a whatever. You could also take this link, and one of the suggestions in the slides that I've created is to put it into a Canva whiteboard. So you could take like a collaborative gallery, and students could, I'll show you what this looks like. You can take a gallery whiteboard, share it with students so that they have access, and then students can take their own link. And if they paste the link on the page, it will bring their podcast right into Canva, and then students can listen to it right here and they can play it. So or they can open it up in another window. So that's kind of a fun way to do a little virtual gallery. Again, the same link. I just took that share collaboration. Anyone in my school can view and then copy. and then paste that into anywhere they want to share it, whether it's just with you, whether it's somewhere where other students can listen, things like that. The other way to share is to take the download and download it as an MP4, as a video file, download it, and then upload that somewhere as well. Those are the two main ways to share things that students would have the ability to do. To turn any design into a video, you're going to do that under resize, and then choose the video option, and then choose the size of video or the shape of the video that you need. You could do it in here. Again, the audio layering just gets a little trickier in a template like this. So sometimes a video is just slightly easier, but you could do it either way. Yeah. Great questions. And if there's questions around sharing, please drop those in, let me know. But really, this collaboration link is going to be the easiest, or the download. You could also create an assignment in Google Classroom. And then if you create it from Canva, like if you give them a blank podcast cover as the template assignment in Google Classroom, they could also send it back to the assignment that way. That's kind of another way to do it. No, great question. If they have really long audio, will Canva automatically create another page? No. You can record for, I don't know, I've never maxed it out, but I've recorded for 15 to 20 minutes at a time, and it just stays in the one frame or one page. So that's where I think sometimes it's nice to have multiple pages in case they do mess up. They're not kind of trying to edit and start over. But they could also cut out split audio. If they messed up, take a part of it out, you can really edit down. But no, it doesn't run out of time. It just will keep recording. Yeah, great question. Okay, let me wrap with just a couple, lost all my slides, a couple of resources. So again, there's some template links in these slides for galleries and brainstorming. It's a reminder of where to record yourself. So I did put all of that in here. And then the last page on here, I need to link this. I realize the link isn't in here. I'm going to link it in just a minute, maybe before I send it. We do have an entire teacher resource page of all Canva stuff, so I will link that. And then I also shared 2 resources. This first one is how to produce a podcast from Canva. So it will look like this. It's where I got a lot of the information in the slides, but there's even more. There's articles from the New York Times. So it's the entire way, step by step, kind of how to do a podcast in Canva. So this is a resource we have available. And then also this one's from TCEA, but it's got some really great information on student podcasting with Canva. So these are also linked. You'll have access to those afterwards. I will share the recording with Kathleen, and I should put them on the YouTube channel, and then we can link the slides and the resources there as well. If there's
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say before everyone starts signing off and then I get a bunch of emails, just thank you so much, Janice, as always. So all of our recordings will be on the YouTube channel. I try my best to send them out through Vector as well once I get them from Janice. That doesn't always happen. I do 5 of these a month, but so just be patient with me on that. And then I also link up the resources like she said as well. And then the same thing for the attendance. So our secretary will add those as soon as we get it from Janice, but this can take several days. So please do not expect it to be there tomorrow because it won't be. But we will work on it, and it will be there before the March 28th deadline. So I can promise you that.
It's usually my fault that it takes a while because I forget to send it, but I will send it and then they can get it.
No, it's fine. You're fine. I'll remind you if you don't. The YouTube channel. Oh my goodness. I am so sad that we don't know what that is. It is jcps.me /digital learning. So there's a playlist there of all the sessions Janice has done in the past. And then in the resources, that's our JCPS resource page. So that's there as well.
Awesome. Hopefully maybe these podcasts, I feel like a good time of year as we're wrapping for end of unit and end of year, maybe during testing, having like a fun activity. So hopefully there's some great, and honestly, if you do any of these fun things, let Kathleen know, let me know. I would love to see what you're doing in the classroom. So please share with us, either find me on socials or share with Kathleen. She can share with me. I never get to see anything beyond what I tell you. So I would love to see how this is working in the classroom. So please let us know. We would love to see that. And thank you so much for joining us today. Yay.
Yes, thank you. And Erica, sorry, the 24th, the 28th, I don't know. I have a bunch of asynchronous stuff. My secretary knows what to do and she will get it there. I promise it'll be there. So
there's not an exit slip for this. So I think you're all set.
I know it's a lot. So thank you. Thanks, Janice. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, y'all. All right.